still wanted to do a proposal with the ring.
Yeah. Guys, I don't know why it's scary. See, for you, okay, I would understand for someone who's going in cold and there were no Lobola negotiations that took place. You went through an entire first leg of iLobola. Why were you nervous?
You could still say no. So now at this point, I need to construct a letter.
Wow. A letter.
My parents do anyway.
Oh, to parents. So parents construct a letter. So if you're wondering, during the Lobola process or to kickstart the Lobola process, the soon-to-be son-in-law or the groom, soon-to-be groom's family sends a letter proposing to meet with the soon-to-be bride's family.
Yes.
Because the children are intending to get married.
Correct. Basically, the letter that was sent, in our case, the letter that was sent to Mrs. H's family was firstly greetings, saying who we are, we as the Habster family, writing to you, and then you're stating the reasons as to why. It's with regards to our children, or our relation,
our son saw a flower in your yard. Some people are very poetic.
Yeah.
And we would love to build a relationship with you.
Correct. Kindly alert us which day would be most suitable for us to come over. Handwritten, signed, closed up, and that is then given to
me.
So that when she goes home,
I give it to my parents.
Yes. So at this point, letter's in your bag, you're on your way home.
I'm on my way home.
What happens next?
Well, I gave my dad the letter. And I think I excused myself for them to read it. Them being him and my mom, to read the letter, and then we were going to deliberate after that. So then I came back. Dad then mentioned that we've read the letter, we see nothing wrong with it, and we're gonna write a response. The ball is now in the bride's family's court, right? Firstly, on whether they accept this letter or whether they reject it completely. Right? So Mr. Habster was not guaranteed whether my parents were gonna say, yeah, sure, come through, we wanna meet y'all, or whether they were just gonna be like, no flowers are gonna be plucked out of this yard. No ma'am. But anyway, in the letter my dad wrote that, firstly acknowledging them, thank you for the letter, we acknowledge you guys and you wanting to build a relationship with us. Secondly, we accept the proposal of you wanting to come and meet with us to discuss this as well. Thirdly, we are available on such and such a date at this particular time and the location, and then we look forward to seeing y'all. And then I took that letter and gave it to Mr. Habster on my way back. So my father also mentioned that these letters must be kept for records. So a copy must be done. So he actually, because it's handwritten, he wrote it down twice. He wrote a copy that you have and a copy that he kept. So he has your letter and then the copy of our response to you guys. And then on top of that, when you guys come in to finish off, actually let's assume that you came in for the first leg. There has to be something in writing with all parties signing that. Yeah. I don't know if I jumped too forward.
No, I mean, that's generally how it is. I think because we're talking about how the letter is structured and all those nice things. So that generally would be the flow of it at different intervals.
So you basically keep record of each interval. His letter, our response. Them coming in the first time, if it's going to be broken down into more than one, session. We're gonna have something in writing from the first session. All parties involved in the first session are gonna sign. That'll be kept for record keeping. And then the final part as well, when everyone is there, we'll keep record of the finalized payment. If there's proof of payment for it, we'll do that. If it was brought in cash, it will be written down that it was brought in cash. All members are there, or all members that are there will be written down. We are marking register, this person was here, and those are the things that are kept as a record. We'll see this indeed did happen.
Definitely. So we get the response back, and eventually we settle on a date. Now this was the following year, January. So now, one thing that we specifically did not want, we between ourselves had spoken that we didn't want a long engagement. Knowing the amount of time that we had spent together, prolonging the engagement was just opening ourselves up to a bit of a gray area.
The engagement really is a gray area. You're not meant to dwell there for a long time. And I'm not disregarding situations where people have no choice but to be engaged for a while due to external factors that could contribute to that. But as far as you possibly can, or let me not put it as a recommendation. We did not. We did not want a long engagement period. Already, guys, we've dated for 5 years. That is an undergrad degree and an honors.
It's a lot.
The first year in what? Your masters or something. That's a long time. That is a long time. So that was our decision, as Mr. Habster has said. That was our decision. But yes, as you've mentioned, I also just wanted to highlight that the engagement phase is meant to be a transition period.
Correct.
A preparation period from once being girlfriend and boyfriend, preparing to be husband and wife. And so you are now putting things in place to ensure that
building up to getting your marriage started in the best possible way. So it is a moving process. It's not just chilling and then we will revisit. So we decided that we didn't want to have a long engagement, which is not something that is usually heard of,
especially when you're young.
In African culture, so
on what grounds? Because I'm not even Makoti. On what grounds do you still want to observe?
So things like that. So that is one thing that we felt strongly about. The gap between when the letter went and when the first meeting happened was about 2 months, 2.5 months. It was about 2.5 months. And for us, the importance that you don't just go and start cocoting and fulamlom and all those other things. The parents get to know each other, get to know each other first, at least have a first meeting and then chat.
And that's what I appreciate about the Tswana tradition, the Tswana culture, because you are guaranteed that once the parents meet, both parties have the best interest at heart for their kids. No one is there wanting to what's this word that I'm looking for?
Interfere.
Exploit. No one is there wanting to exploit the other for money or swindle the other for money and for their own personal agendas. No, these are the parents that birthed these children. And so they're gonna wanna make sure that firstly, this parent that my child is gonna marry into, I guess for both, because the gent also marries into my family, even though I take his surname, but you also marry into my family. You first want to suss out to see, are these okay people, so that you can either go back and warn your child or sleep in peace knowing, my child will be in good hands when they go and visit that side. And man, who knows your child better than yourself? Your uncles don't. Your uncles are there with an agenda. Your uncles are there with no emotional attachment to ensure we stick by this amount that we've been given.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So yeah, that was helpful. And so yeah, that was the first meeting.
Yeah.
Now, again.
Yeah.
Our story is unique, to say the least.
Different. It's different,
to say the least.
Yeah.
You know, and I can fully attest that normally in normal circumstances, other people don't necessarily go through this.
Yes.
But I guess God just knew what He was doing.
God knew what He was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, in summary, that first meeting kind of sort of ended up as a pre-negotiation.
Yes.
You know?
It was supposed to be parents' meeting, but it ended up being the first leg of negotiations.
Yeah, it ended up being the first leg of negotiations.
Which is good also.
Yeah, which is great. Which is great, because when we left there was a sense of jubilance and relief that the parents had met each other. However, there was also an expectation to say that this is where we are, this is where our son is. So, you know, what are you expecting? This is, and those discussions were so fruitful, I would say, and building, very building. So it also kind of narrowed the gap for anyone to come in and say that, hi, but you charge them too low if they're talking to your dad, you know? To say that, hi, you charge them too low.
Yeah.
Hey, your daughter's learned, must be 200 million.
Because they could use it. Me having a job, me graduating, me having a car, living in my own space. They could use that as leverage of getting more money.
Correct.
Yeah.
So very grateful to God for that. You know, He had mercy over us and grace for parents to meet, but also to kind of get to a particular point. So yeah.
I just remembered something I had when I had a conversation with my father before you guys came in, and actually before you sent the letter.
Yeah.
I had a list of questions. I don't know if I still have them. Where's my phone? I had a list of questions, guys, and I think I still have them here. I didn't prepare to share this, but I think it's helpful in case there's anyone out there who is who's wondering what questions to ask their parents.
Yeah. Also, while Mr. H is actually looking for this, I also went through a rigorous questioning period before we even went and sent the letter. I needed to approach my uncle first to say that this is my intention, and he would share wisdom and ask me questions to see where my mind is at. So Malome and Mama Lome were there asking. Then there was a whole family meeting between
the Habster family.
You know,
all the cousins, all the elders
were just together, and I was just there, you know, and they were asking me questions that, have you thought of this? Would you want to achieve that?
And they're hardcore, hey? Can you tell them the one question that your uncle asked you? There I was like, I would have taken offense, but
yo, what?
The position, the church position.
Oh yes. So it was hard explaining the fact that we didn't want to be engaged for a long time.
Yeah.
And so to everyone, or to a lot of people, it was like, why the haste?
Yeah.
You know? And so our uncle put it this way. He says, like, the way in which it's presented, it's like you're promised a church position whether you're told that you are going to be an elder.
If you get married,
you need to get married before you can assume this position. And so it seems like you're pushing this, this thing. Is there a promise somewhere, But it was good. It was pertinent questions. They asked, is there something we should know?
That's what my dad also said. There's something we should be worried about. No, I'm not with child, if that's what you're asking. I am not.
I asked, there's something we should know. A particular promise that's attached to this. Are you being pressured? To which I was like, no. And said, okay, what about achievements? You're still young. What about spending your money? Like, I'm spending my money with her
anyway. What difference will it make?
Not gonna be very different,
Oh
but
my goodness.
at the end of that, I guess when they gotten the answers and saw my standpoint, they were very supportive. So there is a process which I hope most families go through with someone coming with news like this.
So I found my questions.
Nice.
I asked 4 questions. So the first one was, can Lobola be done in one day? Because of the distance, it's separate provinces as is.
Yeah.
Right? You're dealing with separate provinces, and already we are on the outskirts of our of Mpumalanga, close to KZN, whereas y'all were on the outskirts of Gauteng, close to Northwest. So it's very far.
Yeah.
It's very far. So my dad said yes, it's possible. However, it will be up to the negotiators. So yeah, it would have been based on how the conversation goes. But thank God, the first half was covered in the first meet up with the parents.
Yeah.
And it turns out my dad was writing exams around that time. So yes, you're right. You did send your letter in December, but this conversation was had around October.
Yeah, that's when it started.
Yeah. So I then also mentioned that in the Tswana culture, the parents meet up first. I understand that in the Zulu culture, that's not how it is. So I asked if mom and dad are keen on that, because I'm aware that in certain families, before the bride takes on the husband's surname, or before any kind of ceremony that has happened, the groom's family does what the bride's family does. So they succumb to the traditions or the ways of things, the ways of how things are done on the bride's side.
Yeah.
Right. So I just wanted to ask if they're keen on trying out the Tswana thing at that particular point, in the initial point.
Yeah.
And they were keen. Praise God. Okay. Because they were keen. I asked where does the money go to, guys? I can't believe I asked that question.
The liver.
I can't believe it.
The liver.
Where does the Lobola money go to?
Good question.
Yeah, I mean, and I was ready to substantiate that with the fact that we are still young. We don't want to start our lives off on debt, and that's exactly what my dad said. He said, we don't want you guys to start your life on debt. Yeah. So some of this money is going to go towards your wedding, to help with your wedding. All right, and then I said, if the money doesn't go towards the wedding, please don't charge this man an arm and a leg, because we still need to pay for our wedding. And then my dad was like, girl, let me tell you something. I said, I got you. And the reason why I'm saying that is because your maternal grandmother was gracious to me, and it would be very unfair for me to not extend that grace to Mr. Habster as well. So essentially he said that my maternal grandmother didn't charge him an arm and a leg. She just allowed him to pay what he could afford at the time. And he said he'll do the same thing with Mr. Habster, but then he said, but don't think I'll charge him 10 rand.
It ain't gonna be 10 rand.
It ain't gonna be 10 rand. Best believe it ain't gonna be 10 rand.
It ain't gonna be 10 rand.
But yeah, no, I appreciated that, because man, that is what started a really good conversation between myself and my parents. That is when we were able to have healthy conversations, and I'm no longer held under the banner of being a child, and the child must be spoken to in this manner, the child must respond to you in this manner. Man, I felt like an adult. Yeah.
Big man things.
I was there wanting to bamba and chill with the big boys.
Yeah, you did well.
Thank you.
And it's so amazing what God can do.
Oh my goodness.
In these moments. Yes, they do come with their own challenges and a lot of uncertainty, a lot of not knowing what next, not knowing where this will come from, not knowing
in general.
Yeah. But God is faithful, and trust Him in the process, he is faithful to lead you through, to restore where the difficulties, may have hindered.
And there will be difficulties, but don't give up. Don't give up in your quest of honoring God and remaining obedient to Him. God honors your faithfulness by being. Okay, no. I was gonna say that He honors your faithfulness by being faithful, but He's always faithful.
Always faithful.
Gotta catch myself there. Oh my goodness. God will always be faithful, but it pays off so well when you are honorable and you are obedient and doing what you're supposed to be doing and positioning yourself where you're supposed to be positioning yourself, aligning yourself to receive the blessing that is meant to come your way at that particular time. Because if you don't align yourself in that place by obeying God to where you should be, you'll miss the blessing. It'll pass you like that.
So now that is
how the parents sit.
Okay, so now that we have spoken about the parents meeting and also the Lobola later, now we get into the juicy part, which is la negotiations.
Okay.
Or Lobola in general. Mahadi. Now, I think it would be very important for us to highlight, as we are Christ followers, and the practice of Mahadi is a traditional practice. I've been posed the question that, okay, because you're Christ followers, why do you feel the need to go through this aspect? So I think it's important for us to then differentiate. Traditional aspects are there, what is culture, and also understanding where does that fit into our faith as Christ followers, and what's honoring to God, what's honoring to our families, to our parents, and the whole shebang.
Okay, so let's start with differentiating tradition and culture, right? Because in a way, we use them interchangeably, we use them synonymously, but they are different. Yes, they are interlinked, but they're different. So tradition is more, or speaks more towards practices that are done, that have been there, that are passed down from generation to generation, things that remain the same, that do not change. Right? The tradition would be doing iLobola, for example. It's just known that when an African couple wants to get married, or even when a Western guy wants to marry an African girl, there is a tradition that he follows. Think of it as rules in your home. There are certain ways you do things in your home, and that constitutes as a tradition in your household. I cannot be uDlamini who wants to impose Dlamini things kwankosi, because kwankosi they do things their own way. Culture is it speaks more. Think of pop culture. Think of trends. Think of things we're currently doing now. We are not dressed the same way people were dressed in the 90s, similar to how they were dressed in the 80s, 60s, 50s. That is culture. How things are done. How music sounds. How we meet up with friends, or activities we do with friends. How we show up at work, what kind of work we do. Those are things that constantly change with time. I'm just remembering that I came across the word amassed. It's things that are amassed, so things that are collected over time, and they evolve and they change. So that is culture.
So in terms of the tradition and culture, the tradition is a set ways on doing things. I guess the culture then informs the how. So to speak, the nuances that have been carried over from generation to generation, that are also influenced by current and past and things like that. So in the same way that you have iLobola as a traditional practice in African culture, across African cultures, there's different tribes and different ways and
different hows
acted out. So which is informed by the culture.
And I just remembered another example for culture. Again, back in, let's make examples of maybe the Zulu culture. Yes, tradition is iLobola, but the culture is now the differences in how we do it. Back then, there was no monetary value that people could attribute to it, so it had to be physical cows. Now, yes, the tradition iLobola is still being observed, but because of changing times and not everyone having a kraal, we have to make use of money as inkom.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So then back to the matter at hand.
Yes.
Why would we, even celebrate this? So there are many aspects of African culture and African traditions which should be celebrated.
Yes. Yeah.
And with this in mind, Mahadi bringing together the families and as an acknowledgement of the groom coming forth to say that, look, I want to take your daughter's hand in marriage, but I'm not taking her to some wilderness somewhere to go live in a shack. But also acknowledging your role as parents, as family in your life.
And appreciating
the work that you have taken, the effort, the blood, sweat, and tears into raising her to the point that she is now. So it is an acknowledgement. It is for the families to come together. It is something to be celebrated.
It's not an exchange trade.
Yeah, it's not an exchange.
A selling of a daughter.
It's not a purchase.
It's not a purchase.
Not a possession. But it is an interaction. Even with the negotiations, it is an interaction between the families aimed at growing the bonds and building relationships between the families. Yes, that needs to be celebrated. And as Africans, we do take quite a lot of pride in both our families being involved and being united. We're not running away, just the two of us, as if we have no background.
And I think that's the beauty of the African culture, that granted, in the end, the marriage is the groom and the brides, but we do not negate the fact that the groom doesn't come on his own, and likewise the bride doesn't come on her own. She comes with her family and he comes with his family as well, and it just allows this building of the union of a new family, from two families into one. I'm also then reminded that in the Western culture, they also have things that they need to do. The guy has to ask for the girl's hand in marriage from her father. They don't just rock up and then to us we are engaged. He has to ask for her hand in marriage first before about engaged. So it's not a strange phenomenon to involve parents before you take that step. So in what you said, Mr. Habster, about celebrating the African culture as well, we celebrate it because it is a reflection of God's heart, of who God is, and we celebrate it in a way that does not defile his name or does not dishonor him.
That's true. That's right.
I believe that in heaven we will have a mixture of all these cultures worshiping God. You have amaZulu egida lapha eliliza. You have amaTswana Basotho, what are the Basothos with their blankets and their hats, guys. You have the Maasai folk jumping there. So the Maasai people jump. You have them jump there. You have the Irish people in the kilt. What's that skirt? In the kilt and the pipe bags. That pipe, guys. It's going to be a beautiful celebration of a mix of things, because it all reflects God. It points back to God. And so, to answer the question of why we do this as Christians, I hope that answers it. That we don't write it off. We just don't observe things that do not honor God.
I think the kilt, the Scottish, but
Scottish. What are the Irish? What do the Irish do?
I don't know.
Okay, they'll do whatever the Irish
Whatever they do.
They'll do whatever the Irish do. Oh my goodness.
Yes, but yeah, it is for every tribe.
Yes.
Heaven will be
every nation, every tribe, and every
and
tongue.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, it's in the Bible.
Because it's not by accident. God did create us with, different cultures and, the way in which, people in the northern hemisphere versus people in the south and all different. So yes, it is worth celebrating. So at the same time, we do know that our some traditional practices and some cultural practices over the years do intermingle with the spirituality of things. And so that's why it was worth noting that some of the things, a lot of what informed what we did came from the standpoint that we do not want to compromise on our faith by partaking in some things that don't necessarily go together with our following of Christ. So some scriptures that Mrs. H will have a look at explains how we didn't want to do a couple of things that required us to engage directly with practices of ancestry or practices of communicating with what would be our ancestors, things that don't necessarily go with what we stand for. So we are very intentional about working around that, but trying to honor our families, honor our parents, but most importantly, honor our God.
Honor our God. And there are obvious scriptures that we grew up hearing of. There are songs even written of them. So I'll just read the first one, which is in the book of Exodus chapter 20 verses 3, and then I'll skip down to 5 as well, which reads as follows: you shall have no other gods before me. Right from the onset, God says you cannot worship any other god except for me. Then verse 5 says, you shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God. Like, it's there in the text. It's there. He's telling you, no, you cannot worship anyone else, because me, I'm a jealous God. There cannot be anyone else before me. In fact, there cannot be anyone else occupying my spot, be it before me or after me or next to me. Cannot be anyone else, because that spot is reserved for him.
And just to put it, I guess, to further break down the context of gods, at times we can make ourselves as gods. Or idols.
Our jobs could be our idols.
Our jobs could be our idols. Anything that is put or taking trust that we can actually place directly with God is the shape of God. And so when we have access to God Almighty, who says that He will be our God and we will be our people,
His people,
and we will be His people, we have direct access
to Him.
And so that is the standpoint that we came from, to say that we have direct access to God. And as a jealous God who wants relationship with us so close, we don't need to have middle or intermediaries, or even place trust in our own abilities, but actually He is God Himself, God Almighty. So we sometimes go through arguments to say that God is still God, but there's still all these other things.
And then there's a Xhosa saying that says, sometimes. Guys, that is a very dangerous thing to say. That is, no, God does not know. He doesn't need help. He is God. Why would He be God? Why worship Him if He needs help? Why turn to Him if He needs help? Because then you could help yourself.
Correct. And He didn't need help when He was creating the heavens and the earth. So why would He need help now in this modern day era? So that's a whole other thing. But we did not want to compromise where our trust lies.
Yeah.
And also there were two things that we don't know.
Yeah.
Because we haven't practiced some of these things, and
I don't want to know them.
Yeah, personally, I don't want to know them either because of what I know of who God is.
Yes.
I know the Heavenly Father.
Yeah.
I don't need to know.
You don't need to know anything else.
Yeah. So that informed how we then approached our Lobola negotiations.
Yeah.
So a key event that came about in the Lobola negotiations was that somewhere along the lines, by culture, which actually happens to be somewhat of a similarity between Tswana and Zulu culture, there needed to be a slaughtering of a goat. With that being said, I remember we were having a chat back at home. I was chatting to my mom. Yeah. And initially we were like, it's probably not gonna happen. It's probably not gonna happen. Yeah. Mrs. H's dad, doesn't practice this thing. And my mom was like, you know what? Yes, he might not. But because we're dealing with a wider family, someone is gonna want to do it. Someone is gonna be like, this needs to be done. We can't say that these negotiations have happened without this having taken place. And so there was a goat, but in the God-given wisdom that Mrs. H's dad had, he was like, okay, now we're not gonna do this thing. If there has to be an animal slaughtered, we're not gonna go through a whole process whereby we dig at this thing and talk. It'll go to the butchery and it'll get chopped up there, and wherever the meat and the parts that need to go to the respective families go, they will go. Yeah,
and that is wisdom. I forgot the scripture, but it was the Apostle Paul. We heard of this morning. That what we do. Oh, guys, I'm paraphrasing. Oh goodness, I really.
I think it was in 1 Corinthians 8 and 9.
Oh, okay. 1 Corinthians 8 and 9.
Yeah.
Okay, so chapter 8 speaks of food offered to idols, and then how, as a Christ follower, to conduct yourself in that space, right? So what you don't want to do is do something that will have an influence on people who are weaker in the faith in a bad way. I don't know if I'm constructing my sentence right here. You don't want to do something that would negatively impact someone else who's weaker in the faith. So rather just avoid it altogether than doing the act itself. So an example would be if you have a friend who's struggling with alcoholism and you don't, it basically means don't drink alcohol in the vicinity of your friend because you're trying to help your friend. Remain sober, because if you drink, he'll drink, and he has no cap. Also pulls a dog. That's just how it is. So rather, in their presence, don't drink. I think this is what also informed Dad's decision to not slabber anything, because it's not like he was gonna slabber and say something. It's not like he was gonna slaughter and say something. The mere fact that the neighbors are seeing an animal being slaughtered in this yard would communicate that we are dabbling in other things.
Yeah.
So for the sake of their faith, we're not gonna do it here. Yeah, so guys, Christianity, we have to be so considerate.
God considered us while we were dead in our sins.
Oh, come on.
Dead in our sins.
Christ died for us.
So those are the things, the fundamental things that held us together during the process. And yes, there was some difficulties and pushback, but the Lord in His grace and mercy has been redeeming, and we find ourselves here years later with relationships with all our family, and our families knowing each other, loving each other, and supporting us as well.
And another thing I wanted to mention is the beauty of going through or pursuing marriage, rather, let me say that, if you are called for marriage, pursuing marriage, the beauty of it as a Christian is that God uses that as a vehicle to bring healing in your families, restoration, redemption, reconciliation, rebuilding, all these beautiful things. And you will encounter obstacles along the way. You will encounter hurdles that need to be jumped over, and it might seem tough at that time, but be encouraged that it's not in vain. God is doing something through your marriage. You as a unit are a conduit to what God wants to do in this. Like, it's so mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. Like, apart from the fact that yes, God still allows us to be lovey-dovey because we are in a marriage, there's more to it.
Correct.
Like,
Preach.
The God we serve.
The God we serve. So yeah, that is our journey into Lobola.
Lobola.
Awesome. We back. So now we have gotten to the end of the negotiations.
Yeah, and it was beautiful. If I find pictures, I'm gonna put them up somewhere for y'all to see. It was beautiful.
Look at that. So yeah, this actually came in just before the end of the Lobola negotiations. So, do you want to tell it because you weren't expecting it?
Yeah, guys. So after the first leg of the Lobola negotiations, I didn't expect I didn't expect Mr. Habster to go down on one knee, because to me, iLobola was the proposal. In fact, that is what it is. iLobola right through to membe. So you're still in Ngoduso at the time. Ngoduso is the Zulu word for fiance. So yeah, I just regarded that as the proposal, and that I was gonna see my ring for the first time at my wedding. But no, Sana. Always the habster knows ukuthi this girl loves romance.
Why would I want to deny you the opportunity to be like, hey, propose? Yeah, I had at the time already planned that I still wanted to do a proposal with the ring.
Yeah.
Yeah, so scary.
Guys, I don't know why it's scary. See, for you, okay, I would understand for someone who's going in cold and there were no Lobola negotiations that took place. You went through an entire first leg of iLobola. Why were you nervous?
You could still say no.
Shwang, because babe, like the obstacles we had to go over to get to that first leg.
That is what my mind fathomed.
That it was too much and then I was gonna back out.
No. You could say no. You have a choice. It's not just a given.
Can I free up all the gents, because to us ladies, we don't understand why you're nervous. If you are completely certain, y'all are on the right page, y'all even did your counselings and whatnot, your couples counseling, pre-engagement even maybe. You've met each other's families, you've had the chat with the parents, you probably even got started with the proposal of iLobola. I am letting you know on behalf of all the ladies, don't be nervous at this point. We are waiting to say yes again. At this point, you should even know she's gonna say yes.
Yeah.
But I guess naturally you will have nerves.
Yeah, because it means a lot. It's not just like another thing. Like, oh yeah. It's like, oh shut.
Yeah.
Nah. It's not just a thing.
While the boys got Zulu would say that. Long shot.
So I still did want to propose the ring. Initially I had thought, Dr. Botanical Gardens, yes.
Oh, he had such a cute plan, guys.
And then, too busy that we'll go try North Cliff. And then it rained.
hard for a long time.
And we ended up just chilling, and I was like, I am going to lose my nerve. I am not going to wait for a perfect setting. I am going to pop this thing here when this ring is coming out now. It's going on your finger.
My goodness.
Yeah, so we were just chilling, watching some Grey's Anatomy, and
I had already seen that episode. It was the episode with Dr. Sloan, guys. Yeah. So I had already seen that episode, but Mr. Habster hadn't, so I was willing to rewatch it with him. And I remember how emotional I felt after seeing it for the first time. So when Mr. Habster went down on one knee, I'm thinking he's being emotional because I understand the weight of this particular episode that we saw. In fact, I didn't even realize he was on one knee. It looked like he was just on both knees, holding my hand, saying, you know, I love you, right? I was like, yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, do you love me? And I said, yes, I'm not going anywhere. In fact, I even hugged him because I was like, why? We just did the first leg of iLobola. I'm not going anywhere. No, I'm here. And then he went, okay. So after I hugged him, that was a funny point. After I hugged him to assure him or reassure him, I was like, okay, because
yeah, she lost her mind.
I did. If I was outside, I would have ran away. Because I tried running away, but I'm sitting on a couch against the wall. So where am I running to?
It's raining. Yeah.
Mr. Habster drove back to his place a happy man that day.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yes. I did. And that is how we went.
Did you?
Yes.
Engagement.
Yes. Engagement.
But yeah, we hope this episode was informative, enlightening, especially if you are a Christian who is in between in between this thing of, do I go forth with the Lobola or not?
Yeah.
And man, there are our friends. We have friends who haven't even paid Lobola because the woman's side of the family would probably say, hi guys, no, we don't need to do that. I don't want seats. And that's also fine.
Yeah.
Are you gonna make our children's spouses pay Lobola? Okay, well, the sons don't have a choice. It depends on the girl's family.
Yeah.
Are you gonna make the girl's potential? What? Wow.
It's not 10 rand, but yeah. Yeah. No.
Kids.
No. You must buy the bola.
Me, I don't mind if they don't, as long as there's the understanding, the respect. But I understand where you're coming from, because it instills. I was going to say it builds character. Builds character. Builds integrity.
Yes.
So I would also then agree based on that. Yes.
Yeah, there has to be something.
Yeah.
Just something.
Yeah.
To work towards.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it's gonna look like in those years, but
pop culture, we don't know how it's gonna look like.
Yeah, Riz.
The Riz, it's probably not even gonna be called Riz by then. It's Riz now.
But
by the time our kids are as old as these 2Ks, it's not gonna be Riz anymore.
Oxalai, I'm gonna be sitting on my daddy chair.
And they'll be shouting, Pala!
Shouting there.
At the gate.
Yes. Reciting my clan call, everything.
Oh guys, I'd never seen my dad as proud as he was the day until shouting. In fact, he sat there on his chair and was like, oh, one niche. What's a one niche? I was like, I've never seen you like this, old man. What?
Love it.
What? No, it was fun, guys. It was fun.
Yeah.
I wish that was documented, but it's documented.
That's all. So yeah, overall we hope that it was fun to watch.
Yeah.
But also, if there's anything relative to what you have or are experiencing, please do engage with us in the comment section.
We love engaging with you guys on the series.
We do, and we love the questions that we get. We absolutely enjoy it. And I know that there's a whole other discussion where we did touch on, like, our Christian faith and African spirituality. I think in the interim to maybe that's a whole other discussion, but something that we found helpful in breaking those two up and understanding where that fits into our worship of God is something very helpful in the description series that we did at church.
You can also you'll see the video up here as well.
It'll pop up right up here. So
should probably be helpful to you as you navigate that space. Or try to understand that space. Or find yourself in a place where you're surrounded by people with different beliefs to yours, and you don't know how to respond to their questions. I hope that video is helpful.
Correct. So on that note, thanks again for joining us. A reminder to please subscribe if you haven't already, and drop your comments, share, and we love you.
We love y'all, and God loves you more.
Yes, He does.
It's like this, baby. But you know what they do now?
What they do now?
They do that.
The heck? I'll never keep up. Bye bye. You know I love you. Bye bye.
Mwah.